Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our Directors Dialogues. We are here with Ernesto, the director of Concerto for Other Hands. Ernesto, do you want to say hello?
Hello, I'm very happy to be here.
Glad to have you. We have these Directors Dialogues today presented by Peliplat, the website to write film reviews. You can write a review about your favorite film now and all of the films at VLAF, including Concerto for Other Hands, which is going to be playing on Wednesday, September the 10th at 6:30 p.m. at the Cinematheque. You can get your tickets now at vlaf.org/tickets. Okay, Ernesto, the first question I always have for personal documentaries like the one you made is how did you meet David, the protagonist of the documentary, and what was it that attracted you to him to make the documentary about him?
Yeah, the thing is, because I studied piano when I was a child for several years, I had this. I wanted to make a project that had to do with pianists and musicians. And a few years ago, as I was planning to do this project, one of my associates met David and his parents. And since he knew that I liked these things with music and piano and all that, he told me about them. Because back then they were going to play a concert and they wanted somebody to record it, to film it. And so I went to one of the rehearsals and I met them there. And it was very interesting for me to meet them and to see this interaction between David and Jose Luis, his father, who is also his teacher, and to know that the piece that David was going to perform was composed especially for him by his father. And yeah, little by little, after that, I continued to visit them and to go to their concerts, and I started getting to know them a little more, little by little, and I saw that they had a very interesting story, which had themes that I liked a lot, and that's how I became interested in doing a documentary about their story.
Right. Yeah, you touched a little bit on the dynamic that they have as both father and son and mentor and sort of disciple, as
Mhm.
puts it. Um, and yeah, I was just interested to see what your take was on that dynamic they had. At least watching the documentary, it felt like there was always uh, it was an interesting progression for Jose Luis and the family to go from not wanting to acknowledge or tell people about the condition that their son had when they found out when the mom was pregnant to having a documentary made about him. And I feel like there always were different things that came up whenever it was you saw them as more father and son, whereas when you saw them more as sort of a teacher and student. Do you want to talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that?
Yeah, well, for me, what was very interesting was that there was this like this ambiguity, um, because they have this complex relationship. Um, yes, as you mentioned, especially Jose Luis, the father, at the beginning, he didn't think that his son could play the piano. David had this dream of playing the piano with his father, and there was all of this progression uh, from thinking that it was impossible to making it possible. At the same time, Jose Luis, I think, is a very caring father, very loving father with his son. So there's a lot of love and tenderness, but at the same time, he's very demanding with his son. So yeah, I think there are these ambiguities and this tension between them. That is what I think that made their story interesting. And when you watch the documentary, I think in the scenes where they are together, you can feel this tension, and that's what I think grabs your attention.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was a moment that stood out for me when David is playing the concert and he hits a wrong note. And his dad, you would expect him to give him an angry look or to sort of go down on him for that, but he gives a really calming presence to him, and the words that he tells him before of leave the mistakes behind, I think he says, really resonate, and you can see him finish off the piece really well. I really enjoy that moment.
Mhm. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, and that's I think that's one of the most uh, like a very important key moment, because after you after you see all their progression of this work together, um, yeah, you can see how Jose Luis is a very strict teacher or mentor, but at this key moment, he reassures his son and his disciple. So I think that was very important. And also because when we shot and when we filmed this concert, that happened for real.
Mhm.
You know? So I think that that was a natural moment that shows very clearly their personalities.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Speaking a little bit about the progression of David, I think one thing that the documentary does really well is sort of track that progression linearly, where you don't see David play the piano for the first little while of the documentary. And that whole first phase, I was wondering, when is it going to happen? When are we going to see him? But I started to understand that decision more and more as the film went on. But I think you also did a really good job at maintaining, at tracking that story, I think, temporally and emotionally, but also keeping flexibility and freedom to go back and forth with the archival material and David talking about his dreams. It feels like it's not a rigid story, but it still has that fluidity. So I was curious
Mhm.
what the process was like of putting together the film with all the material that you had.
Well, it was a very complex process, as it usually happens with documentaries. Um, yeah, I think um, as we were shooting and we started getting to know them better, um, I think we realized that if we showed David playing the piano from the beginning, the story wasn't interesting enough. It didn't grab you.
Yeah.
And, and then we realized that the main conflict was, well, between father and son, the main conflict was this idea of the father refusing to believe that his son could accomplish something. And that created expectation, that created suspense. And that's how we decided to tell the story little by little.
Mhm.
But it was also, for me, it was also very important to show like the subjectivity of David, like his interior world, let's say. So that's why we have all of these scenes, like in the aquarium, where he's talking about his condition and how he views nature as a creation, and he's also part of this creation with his differences. Um, and then we have the all the archival footage, which was a treasure that David's mom had. I mean, she's a documentarian by herself, so she had all these tapes, many tapes of David since before he was born.
Mhm.
So that was also a great way to build this story and to see how this relationship evolved through time.
Mhm. No, it's wonderful. Um, yeah, I was going to ask you about David and his family. I think they all, and especially David, uh, develop themselves really well in the film. I think they're very natural, but they're also very conversational and very engaging in front of the camera. Um, and all the extended family and everything. I mean, they are performers, most of them, I guess. So there's a little bit of that. But I was just curious what the relationship was like with the family throughout the shooting, and yeah, how did you find your treatment with them in the process of shooting the film?
Yeah, working with the family was very interesting. Yes, all of them or most of them are musicians, so they're used to doing interviews and to having people looking at them, but they weren't used to having a crew at their home like
Mhm.
almost every day for a period of time. So yeah, we were lucky because they were very generous from the beginning. They were very open, and we just had to find ways to to make them understand that what we were doing was a little different from other interviews that they had done before, uh, because they were accustomed to doing like these TV, let's say like reportages.
Yeah, reportages, like
Yeah,
little.
like shorter things. And we wanted to explore other things. I wanted to go deeper into their story. So yeah, it was like having them understand these differences. And yeah, it was working with them little by little. We started slowly, and as they became more comfortable, they started opening up.
Mhm.
And when they saw the result, the final film, I think they were surprised, and they were very touched by what they saw.
That's lovely. I was gonna get to how the family and the video is doing in a second, but I wanted to ask one more question before. I get
Sure.
so surprised when I see films that are well, not surprised by films that are shot during the pandemic, but
Uh,
it was more common before, and now when it comes up, it still kind of catches me by surprise. But the film is
mm,
interrupted by the beginning of the pandemic that comes before the concert. So I wanted to know what the process of if you had had a chance to work on the documentary during the lockdown, what that was like, and what the especially the communication with the family and the reconnection with them once you had the chance to see them in person again, what that
mm.
was like.
Yeah, so when we were shooting, I think we were shooting a lot of interviews and other things with the family.
Mhm.
And, and then when the pandemic started, I remember that Jose Luis, the father, told me that they were going to lock down or lock themselves down. I'm not sure how you say it. Um, and yeah, it was difficult at that moment
Mhm.
because we were just starting to shoot more and more, and I felt like we were getting some very good footage.
Mhm.
So the pandemic interrupted that, and it forced us to stop. And we didn't shoot for several months, almost a year. But at the same time, that gave us the opportunity to have the time to look at all the footage that we already had and to look at the archival footage that we had many hours of that. So yeah, the pandemic gave us that chance to look at all this footage and to starting to write down the script for the
Mhm.
documentary to see what was the main story that we were going to follow. And and then finally, I talked to them. I mean, throughout this all this period, we messaged each other quite frequently. And then when the pandemic started to subdue, I asked them if they were ready to continue, and they said yes. And yeah, I think they were also eager to finish the project. So we resumed the shootings, and everything went very well. And we had a much clearer idea of what kind of footage we needed.
Mhm.
So yeah, in the end, it was something positive.
Nice. I'm glad to hear.
Yeah.
And yeah, for a closing question, I wanted to ask you, like I mentioned, what you know of David now. I think you touched a little bit on how they received the film, but if they
Mhm.
have been to any screenings, and yeah, just generally how he and the family are doing, and if you've kept any contact with them.
Sure. So when we had almost the final version of the edited film, we presented it to them. We went to their house and we showed it to them. They were very moved by it. They liked it a lot. And since we premiered at the Guadalajara Film Festival, they've attended as many screenings as they can, and they're very happy. I think they've told me that for them it's like very enriching to see their own story through the eyes of a different person, and that they discover new things and they liked how they were portrayed. Um, they like the structure of the film that we put some musical concepts in there, so they liked it a lot. Yeah, they're very happy and very excited for everything that's been going on with the documentary.
Wonderful. Was there anything else you wanted to add about the film that I didn't get a chance to ask you?
Um, not sure. I think just to remind the audience when and where it's going to be
Yeah.
shown.
Wonderful.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this was Ernesto, the director of Concerto for Other Hands. Again, the film is going to be playing at VLAF in the section of Así Suena, or musical section. It's playing at the Cinematheque Wednesday, September the 10th at 6:30 p.m. You can get your tickets now at vlaf.org/tickets for Concerto for Other Hands and for all films playing on September 4th to the 14th at the festival. Thank you, Periplat, again for sponsoring this episode of Director's Dialogue, and thank you very much, Ernesto, for making the time and giving us a chance to talk to you, and for your wonderful film.
my pleasure. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy our film.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next Director's Dialogue or at one of the screenings. Again, remind yourselves to check out all the events that we have at the festival. We're going to have music, food, films, everything Latin American and Canadian. It's going to be a great time. So check it out and come down to watch a film or eat some food.